Hello, my name is Brian Burnham, and this is Module 6, Communicating and Advocating for School Community and Needs. All right, some board policies that are around us here in my area, and then honestly, I had to search. I was very disappointed in kind of how this module ended up going because down here in the South, this is not something that we've done a whole lot with. I'll kind of get into that as we go, but I started seeing a recurring theme of basically, for the most part, non-existence. But the ones that I did find, the county that I teach in, Williamson County Schools, no specific policy on file about cultural diversity and especially communicating with parents and things like that. But there were multiple articles written asking if diversity is being embraced. So it is something that's being brought to the forefront of our area and our community. We are starting something in the fall. I've talked about in previous modules in this class that has not started and not been implemented. We have not received any PDs or anything like that yet. So that's coming down the pipe. We're just not quite there yet. Rutherford County Schools, which is where I used to teach, they also did not have a policy on hand per se. I believe they're in the process of starting one. I did find an article that was in the Tennessean, which is a Nashville newspaper here in the area. And the quote was, with so many different cultures represented at Laverne Middle School, Principal Kerry Holman met with his staff last year to talk about the idea of hosting an annual cultural festival. That was in 2019, and I think they've done 2 more since then. So we are on our 4th annual coming up. They've had countries represented like Australia, Lebanon, Zimbabwe, Congo, Japan, Vietnam, Germany, and 2 or 3 others that I was really impressed with. So we do have diversity in our area, specifically as you get closer towards Metro Nashville, but there's not any policies in place, and it's actually very disheartening, if I'm being honest. Metro Davidson County Schools, I was able to find a policy in place for them, and it simply says, and I have to do this, I'm sorry. The hyperlink that I made does not go directly to it. I spelled cultural wrong. I'm sorry, guys. Okay, so it does say the board shall not discriminate on the basis of sex, race, national origin, creed, age, or marital status in its educational programs or activities. Class size ratio shall not exceed the maximum allowed by state law. Educational materials that are utilized shall reflect the cultural and racial diversity which is present in the United States, as well as the variety of careers, roles, and lifestyles open to women and men. One of the objectives of the total curriculum and teaching strategies is to reduce stereotyping and to eliminate bias on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, religion, and disability. The curriculum shall foster respect and appreciation of the cultural diversity found in our country and an awareness of the rights, duties, and responsibilities of each individual as a member of the pluralistic society. So I was at least happy that Metro Nashville was able to have this policy. This was issued in August of 2018. So still not very old, considering one of the districts I found was from 1993. The Consolidated School District of New Britain, I believe this one's in Connecticut. This is from 1996, so this one's been in place for a while. It was approved in 1993. It took a couple years to get implemented, but here's their policy. Very similar. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but you can see the goals of a multicultural education are develop students who are motivated, active participants in the development of their own learning and knowledge. We want to value and have respect for their culture and ethnic heritage, have respect and appreciation for the history, customs, and contribution of different cultures, understand that people are interdependent and should coexist as one humanity, and function effectively in their own and other cultural situations. And then it goes on to talk about instruction within the classroom and then the curriculum and materials. So I was very happy to find this. And then finally, Radford City Schools, I think I saw somebody else's presentation had this, and they had gone through all of the goals. I only focused on goal number 4, because it spoke directly about cultural diversity and communication. If you scroll down to goal number 4, let's see, I'm sorry. Goal 2, goal 3. Goal 4, to encourage community involvement in creating a culturally inclusive school environment. So we're talking about communicating with the culture, or with the community, enlisting the cooperation of community organizations such as the NAACP, the League of Women Voters, parent-teacher organizations, ministerial associations, etc., to conduct informal forums about cultural diversity. And then there's other objectives: to increase and receive information about events related to cultural diversity in the community. And then the 5th one goes on to continue to speak about provide ongoing cultural diversity training that creates an awareness and appreciation of other cultures and ethnic groups. So I was happy to find this one as well. Okay, so what's wrong with the policies that I was able to find? Well, the first thing that I noticed is that they weren't given any policies there weren't any policies in place except for the one district that had a written, full-fledged statement. Obviously, Metro Nashville has the statement about discrimination, but it doesn't talk about cultural diversity specifically and how we're going to make sure we're hitting all customs and all cultures. It just talked about not being discriminatory. And then the other thing that I noticed is that the other districts are just now either acknowledging multiculturalism, that it's a needed area of improvement, or the district has ideas in place, but it seems just to be lip service. That's kind of where we're at with Williamson County right now. We're being told that something's coming in the fall, but we'll see. Have we missed the mark this much as a society up to this point? After doing this research, I'm starting to realize, and maybe that was the point of this assignment. I'm not sure, but at least here in the South, where I'm at, I think we are missing the mark completely right now, currently. What does that say about our government and our current policies? Well, obviously, it says that I think we're behind. I think, especially the South, I think we're probably 5 or 10 years behind everybody else, which is not surprising when we're starting to talk about things about race and diversity and things of that nature. But it's 2021. I really think we should have more progress than we've currently got. Communicating with families can and should come in different forms. The customs and cultural norms from other countries may affect a family's comfort level. Communicating with the teacher via email or in an informal setting, like a ball game or other school function. Some of the Asian cultures, specifically, I read where until there is some sort of rapport established, they want to keep everything very formal. So the idea of talking to somebody at a community event or a basketball or football game or something like that, you may not get much communication from those parents because it's not a sit-down formal situation. It's important to understand and consider that different forms of greetings and use of titles may be preferred. We referenced like Japan, for example, when they're saying, when we're speaking to them or they're speaking to us, and it's a formal situation, they'll put san, S-A-N, on the end of things, kind of as it's kind of like a title for them. I think you need to be aware of those types of things so that we're not offending anybody or not doing anything inappropriate to make people feel uncomfortable. The male and female roles need to be defined within various cultures. You need to be conscious of this. Training involved so teachers know specifics about how and when we're supposed to speak to certain genders. Is the male the dominant, figurehead in the family, and those two parents are not expecting you to talk directly to the woman. It seems strange in our culture, but that's how it is other places. Also, nonverbal communication and body language, eye contact, use of touching, use of physical space. These types of things, making eye contact can and be offensive to some places, certain countries. So we got to be careful about certain things. What else is wrong with the policies that we looked at? Well, what can we do? You can ask questions to learn how families would like to communicate about their child's day. Some families may prefer face-to-face conversations, while others prefer telephone or regular daily notes. Some other ways of communicating with families include a program website, email, family meetings or conferences, newsletters, articles of interest. I got this from the virtual school resource printed out in 2015. Who is affected? Who are we talking about that these types of things are happening with? Seemingly, at least here in the Middle Tennessee area, all of students of color are most affected by the lack of official policy. Specifically, African American students, Latino students, both seem to be the biggest impacted cultures from the policies or lack thereof in our area. Also, Asian American and Middle Eastern individuals of Middle Eastern descent, as well as certain parts in Metro Davidson, Nashville, but we don't have a high population of these students in Williamson County schools. What steps can we take? Well, to the credit of the districts in Middle Tennessee, there are PDs in place for teachers and staff. They're being developed, and policy should be available as soon as 2021, 2022. So it's yet to be determined, but there is what seems to be some light at the end of the tunnel. Specifically, the Williamson County School Board policy, the only policy that I could find even mentioning cultural diversity, I copy and pasted here. This was back in 2019. And you can read, the board shall not discriminate on the basis of sex, race, national origin, creed, age, or marital status in its educational programs or activities. The highlighted portions say educational materials that are utilized shall reflect the cultural and racial diversity which is present in the United States, as well as the variety of careers, roles, and lifestyles open to women and men. One of the objectives of the total curriculum and teaching strategies is to reduce stereotyping and to eliminate bias on the basis of sex, race, ethnicity, religion, and disability. The curriculum shall foster respect and appreciation of the cultural diversity found in our country and an awareness of the rights, duties, and responsibilities of each individual as a member of a pluralistic society. So this was back in 2019, and we're just now getting to the point where they're looking to implement official policy. That's why I said that it feels like some of this is lip service. Hopefully this year we'll start to make some more progress, and they're going to start putting the trainings, and the policies are going to be a little bit more defined. Obviously, clearly my district has a lot of work to do moving forward. All right, a big concept I've kind of already brushed, touched on this up to this point. There's no explanation for a lack of board policy in the area of cultural diversity, multiculturalism, and the rights of these students. I find it, I don't want to say offensive, but I find it frustrating, to be honest. The importance of providing training for faculty and staff, it's an essential part of the process of implementing a new policy into a district. With over 350 languages spoken in the United States homes today, creating systematic ways for educators and families to communicate can often be overwhelming. We need to be taught how to do this kind of thing. The need for PD for teachers has never been higher. If PD is not in the cards for immediate implementation, there are some mobile apps, which I talk about here at the very end of this. I need to speed up. I've only got 15 minutes, that can assist teachers and non-English speaking parents to engage with one another. For example, talking points is what I'm specifically mentioning. Communication built on misinformation, assumptions, or stereotypes can create distance between schools, families, and students. The importance of providing training for faculty and staff continued. There's some strategies we want to use to avoid communication pitfalls and encourage teacher-family relationships. You might want to pause this and read through some of these. I'm not going to be able to go over all of them, but we're looking to recognize key relationships. Teachers need to learn what individuals are key figures in a student's life. We want to conduct family interviews, use guest speakers in our classes. All of these are ways we can bring more information and more culture into our classrooms. Recurring themes that I saw from the research: trust, integrating family engagement to school learning goals, family engagement activities that align with district goals, stay connected, be supportive. You can pause this and read those. And then why are these things so important? That's a list right there. Underrepresentation is the first one, moving into a digital age, and then the other one's listed there. Thank you.